Hey, I recorded this without a microphone, just in my iPhone voice recorder, so if the audio quality sucks, that's the reason why. Also, I completely forgot when I recorded this that Honeycutt was the one that had contact with Roger Carruth that basically ended his championship fight, so that just makes the situation even funnier. But yeah, enjoy this unscripted commentary. So I'm sitting here having just finished watching the end of the truck race at Martinsville. I haven't even turned FS1 off. I've got the Inter-Miami-Nashville playoff game about to start, but man, I got to tell you, this system would be really cool if it weren't in motorsports. Because on the surface, it looks really dramatic. And I have to say, credit to the truckers because that was a relatively clean finish, all things considered. We had a tremendous battle for that final spot between four drivers who were separated by literally a single point. You had Ty Majeski, Tyler Ankrum, Kaden Honeycutt, of all people, and Lane Riggs. And Honeycutt gets the tiebreaker over Lane. This is a guy that was fired from his Nice Motorsports ride, is only still in the championship fight because of Stuart Friesen's injury and him taking over the 52 truck, and now he's going to race for a championship. He's never won a race and doesn't even have to win the Phoenix race, technically. Remember what Matt Crafton did in 2019. This guy could be a NASCAR Truck Series champion, having never won a race, having driven for two different teams. Editing Ben popping back in here. It's actually three different teams because he drove one race for Young's Motorsports after he was released from Nice at Watkins Glen. So it's, again, the more I look at this situation, the funnier it gets. Continue over the course of a season and having gotten into the championship four on a tiebreaker against Lane Riggs, who has consistently been the second best driver over the course of the season. Of course, Corey Heim's been running away with it, just won his 11th race. But here's where it gets even more crazy. The graphic indicated on the FS1 broadcast that Lane Riggs set the fastest lap of the race, which, as of this year, is worth one championship point. So was that point factored in to the calculations on the broadcast? The broadcast didn't seem to mention it. And by the way, I don't know how anybody can sit through an entire FS1 broadcast nowadays. I turned the race on. It was probably about 2/3 of the way over by the time I got home, turned it on, and just immediately was presented with a commercial. Some truck spun out. I think it was the 22. I don't even remember. But I'm watching this side by side, and it's as if the camera operator is just falling asleep. They have this one still shot of this one truck. The caution's obviously out at this point. But at that point, it's like, why even continue to bother being on split-screen commercials, side-by-side commercials? And just an absolutely abysmal broadcast, but that's just par for the course with FS1 nowadays. But the broadcast, maybe I missed it. I don't know. I didn't seem to hear anything about the fastest lap point potentially being the difference or that causing it to go to a tiebreaker and meaning Lane was only one short instead of Kaden. And I don't know. It's just... There's so much happening here. There's so much. It's so close. The margins are so close. And again, if the system made sense, it would feel super dramatic. But this is motorsports. Corey Heim should have locked up this championship weeks ago. I almost said years ago because it feels like it should have been years ago at this point. I mean, but he's just been so dominant. It should have been, maybe it should have been months ago. I don't know. I don't know what the margins would be. I don't know off the top of my head if you just tallied up straight points this year where he'd be at. But obviously you factor in all the stage wins into the equation. I mean, he has to be at least 4 or 5 races ahead of everybody else at this point. But man, let me tell you something. If Kaden Honeycutt, of all people, wins this championship, I mean, that's going to be some funny sugar honey iced tea, man. I got to be honest with you. I can't even lie. I hope for the sake of the sport's integrity that Corey wins because he is the only one far and away with a claim as the greatest driver in the series this year. I'm not going to say any of the other three wouldn't be deserving because you know how I feel about that. If the system's the same for everybody, everybody has to execute at Phoenix. I'm not going to call Majeski or Ankrum or Honeycutt undeserving if they somehow win this. But Kaden Honeycutt in particular, if he wins this championship, oh, that's got to be one of the... no disrespect, again, but that's still got to be one of the funniest stories in recent NASCAR championship history. Even funnier than Matt Crafton winning in a system that prioritizes winning above all else without winning a race. Nothing else matters except winning, winning, winning. This is a guy that has never won a Truck Series race, who has split time between 2 different trucks this season, and he has arguably just as good a shot at winning a championship next week as Corey Heim does, who's won 11 times this year and smashed the single season record for most wins. Do you know, if Corey wins next week, he's 12 for 25. That's basically a 50% win rate. I mean, this guy has been unbelievable. And again, I hope for the integrity of the sport that he wins this championship because he deserves it. But there is a small part of me that hopes Kaden Honeycutt wins the championship because maybe the collective outrage that we will see from fans of the sport who will find it unfathomable that Corey Heim could have the season that he's had and not walk away with the championship is going to be so massive that I'm sorry, NASCAR can't ignore that anymore. The cries have gotten louder as the season has gone on, as these playoffs alone have gone on. I feel like just in the last 2 months, the tide has continued to turn. If Kaden Honeycutt is the champion and Corey Heim is not, this is something NASCAR can't ignore anymore. The situation is just crazy, man. That's all I've got to say.